The more time I put into researching this subject, the more I realized that this is becoming a much more serious conversation that we need to have. Nothing should be a universal, one-size-fits-all remedy to your music. And this is kind of my main issue and where the rabbit hole goes a little bit darker. It wasn't an accident that we had names like shape, heat, spice, depth. It's making young producers more dependable on the other producers that they follow. And it's not just Kyle Beats that's doing this. You're also seeing other YouTubers follow suit as well. What's up, gang, and welcome back to another episode of Inspired By, a series where we look at the musical trends, past and present, to understand the techniques used so that you guys can make better music. If you don't know me already, my name's Will, and I make an assortment of music under the moniker Hush Child. Honestly, it's starting to get quite interesting. Like, just check out Ocean's new audio effects rack. Tell me you can't see some similarities here. Like, we've got Earth, Wind and Fire. We're like, what is this? The whole reason the music community uses the same language is so that we can avoid going to the studio and asking for spice and looking like an absolute ass. We use a universal language so that when we're working within a team, we're all on the same page and we're able to create the music that we can hear in our heads. These plugins are just dumbing down the community, I feel, and making less experienced producers more dependent on shelling out their hard-earned money on these quick fix effects that essentially make it seem cooler to use these third-party plugins than the things that they have in their stock DAW. Let's jump into Ableton real quick and I'll show you how you can recreate the effects plugin in your own rack, or just how to use my version after you download it from the description. So straight off the bat, let me just break down what drip does and my rack, the drip off, what that does as well. So over here, we've got shape, heat, spice, depth, overall. And then down in the bottom left, we have time, dry, wet, and feedback, and then speed, high shelf, and dry, wet as well. We also have these confusing tabs, which say things like infinite, save me, torn, and they make absolutely no sense at all. They're just one of the 24 presets that you can assign to that mix knob. So what do these do and how does it affect the drip off? So shape essentially tames the waveform and adds a little bit of a filter. And I have an example here. So let's see what this does. With shaper, we start to increase that. And we're just kind of monoing out the frequency a little bit. And we're also just taking off some of those extreme highs. And as we whack this all the way up, we're also adding a little bit of a high pass filter as well, just taking off those early sort of 250 Hertz frequencies. The heater for the drip plugin is essentially low end saturation. And this is the only one that I haven't made a direct copy of because I thought it was pretty useless. Actually, you could just warm up your low end. You could bass boost, you could add a multi-band compressor and add some low end in there. So I've kind of changed that one a little bit. With my version, what we've got essentially, if you can see here, we can see that saturate is turning on. And right at the end there, we've got the bit crusher. And this is the brilliant thing about either creating your own rack or downloading this as a starting point, as a jumping off point to learn these, is if you hit this button here, you're going to open this up and you're going to go, okay, what's turning on? What's becoming active? To see how there's kind of playful learning going on. You're affecting something and you're seeing the reaction within another effects unit. And if you don't like that, we can go over to our crush. We can turn that redux off, or we can turn that auto filter off. Obviously with the drip, you don't get that option. If you don't really like the sound of that effect, well, tough, just don't use that pop. So I said I've kind of changed this one a little bit. And what I'm doing is I'm warming up the lows. I'm using the compressor is coming into effect, using the EQ3 to boost some of the lows and in turn take down some of the highs there. We've got our saturator, our dynamic tube as well. It's coming into play and just bringing up the drive just a tiny little bit. And our drum bus is just doing some soft clipping and dampening some of those frequencies there. And then we've got a limiter, just bringing down the gain a little bit as we start to increase our bit crusher. So that's where I changed it. Once we get to 90, my bit crusher turns on, and then I can kind of affect the frequencies even more and just really drive that quite hard. That's the only one that I've drastically changed from the drip plugin, because I felt like there was more room to play around with some of the things that it was heating up, some of the warmth that you were adding, and the destruction to whatever signal you were sending through it. Spice, I feel like, was the thing that really made drip what it was, and people thought, whoa, that sound is so much more interesting now. And essentially all it's doing is adding a little bit of chorus, adding some stereo width to the frequency there. So let's have a look. So I start to increase this. You can see that this wide chorus rack has become active. And here I'm just adding a little bit of chorus here, some vibrato. I'm also using this method that we've seen in basically all of my tutorials, where I add some stereo width using the delay. You just take it off sync there, and between kind of 1 and sort of 10 milliseconds, you're going to hear a lot of width. And what I'm doing just here is just changing that EQ to this crazy looking guy here, replicating some of the stuff that the drip does as well, by kind of high passing the frequencies and then creating this huge spike here. The interesting thing about this rack is that when you take it all the way up to its final click, you can see that the phaser on the guitar preset isn't active until we get to 7 milliseconds right there. So even if you're at 6.9, our phaser isn't active. And then just at that last click, we just have some subtle change there where we can hear the phaser take effect. So let's try that maybe on a pad. Let's go back to this stupid plugin. Finally, we have depth. Depth is essentially reverb. Occasionally on some of these presets that you have underneath, it seems to be adding like a little bit of a higher frequency, some sparkle there. So that's all I've done. With deeper on this side here is I've added reverb, which you can see is coming into effect along here. And essentially what I'm doing is taming back some of the frequencies. We've got the hybrid reverb pretty much doing all the work here. As we increase this, it's becoming a little bit more damp. We're increasing the decay from 1 second to 2.10. And we're adding essentially an octave in pitch as well. So you're going to hear some twinkles and some new frequencies come into play, which is really, really nice. And again, our auto filter friend is back because I didn't want you to hear all of that kind of 10K plus shimmer. Might be a little bit too bright. The EQ8 just rolling off some of the low ends so you don't get any rumble there. The glue compressor just taming all of those dynamics for you. And then a limiter making sure that we don't have any peaky frequencies. So you can see when we get to around 60, we start to introduce that plus 12 semitones there, that octave frequency change. And we can wash that all the way out. If we combine that with some delay, it becomes really nice as well for pads. Just like kind of endless space. That's really, really, really nice. I've mentioned the drip plugin so much in this video that I actually turned monetization off because I didn't want to risk you guys seeing an ad for Kyle Beats plugin. But I do want to quickly speak about our sponsor DistroKid. They're genuinely doing great things for the music community, and they make it so easy to get your music on all of the streaming platforms. They've been a huge supporter of the show, and I've been using DistroKid since before I started this channel, and I'm just so thankful that they're our sponsor. With DistroKid, you're able to not only release your music on all of the streaming platforms, which not only includes Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, but also Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch as well. With DistroKid, you're also able to collaborate with other friends and professionals with their splits function. With splits, you're able to make sure that certain producers get paid before others and make sure that everybody gets a piece of the revenue made of that track. DistroKid also makes sure that it's easier for you guys to make canvas visuals and submit your tracks to Spotify curated playlists too. If you want to start releasing your music with DistroKid, make sure that you use the link in the description below, as you'll get a 7% discount off your first year. So what's left? Well, after that, I kind of just replicated the things that were pretty self-explanatory. We've got the delay mix, so essentially our dry wet for the delay, but I've changed the feedback to a delay sync. For whatever reason, with the drip plugin, we only have time. It doesn't sync to the metronome. So if you're in 97 BPM like I am, my delay isn't automatically synced. When we turn our delay sync on by switching it to the right, our delay is going to sync up to the BPM that we have. Let's increase this. Okay, so we've got a very quick delay. We've got kind of a triplet delay there. But I also wanted to have a little bit of fun when we took it off sync. So if we turn it to the left and it's not on sync, we can also have some pitch fun with this as well. So as we change the time, you could drag in an LFO and have that move with your music, and you're going to have some changes in the pitch as well. Maybe you turn your delay up to like 60%, have your LFO automating this back and forth, and you're going to have some kind of pitch warbling effects as well, which is really nice. So that's why I kept those two options. And I did the same with the LFO. Essentially with Kyle Beats plugin, he's added this LFO in the bottom right there, which is kind of fun. So therefore you get that kind of wobble effect, that in and out auto pan effect. And that's all that it's made with, an auto pan that is set to 360 degrees phase. And then I'm just increasing the amount and the rate. So the LFO will increase the amount and then the speed will increase the rate of that. And that's fun for pads. And then again, I just wanted to give everybody the option to either sync that with the BPM so that it works in time with your music. So we'll try it with a pad. And you can hear it kind of clicks to either quarter note, 12ths there, 16ths. So you can have some fun. Or you can turn sync off, which gets really great if we add maybe a little bit of reverb, a little bit of delay. So again, another thing that you could add an LFO to the end of this chain and have it automate the speed. Finally, I've added a high pass filter there, similar to the high shelf. So you can just take off all those low rumbles. And that will take you just past 2 kilohertz. And then something that I thought was really funny, at the time of uploading my video, Kyle Beats has recently put out a new video, and of course he's using the drip plugin in it. He's still trying to shift units of the drip plugin. You know, I've got no beef with that because that might be some of his go-to settings that he likes to use on his instruments. So that's fine. But what's really funny is it's so easy to add a pitch wobble, which the drip plugin doesn't really have unless you count kind of the chorus of vibrato and stuff. So you actually also see him using it in conjunction with RC20, and the only thing that he's adding with RC20 is some noise and some pitch wobble. That's really easy to do in Ableton. Here's my Lo-Fi, which emulates the SP404. You can grab it from my Patreon. And here we're just adding vinyl kind of distortion here. And we've done that with the use of the vocoder, having noise here. We also can add the vinyl distortion there, and we can increase that and move that around, link that with the LFO as I've mentioned before. And the pitch wobble is even easier to do. So I'm kind of surprised that the drip doesn't allow you to do that. Let's play this loop again, and I'll add some pitch wobble and show you what it's doing. So there's my pitch wobble. You can see that I've got that maxed out. It sounds pretty horrible. So essentially we're just changing the LFO amount here on the frequency shifter. And then on this frequency shifter, we also have a different shape, and the amount is increasing there as well. I like to have this between sort of 80 and 100. Sounds really, really nice. We'll add a little bit of high pass, maybe the reverb. Spice it up. Spicy, you know, just ridiculous. Cool, that sounds good. We'll add a little bit of delay. There we go. Pretty happy with that. Works as I would need it to. So that's a really easy thing to add to your own rack. But again, if you want to download this, if you can't be bothered to make your own, completely understand. Something that I've added inside this rack as well is I noticed Kyle Beats had 24 presets. Well, that's super easy to do. So I added 24 presets for you guys as well. So we start on reset, just makes everything nice and clean. And we have some different presets here. Want that kind of lo-fi warble effect. There it is. Nice quick delays. All good. We could also have these as like maybe follow actions. So they flick through to different presets, which is not something you're going to be able to do with the drip, obviously. Let's set it to accents. This is kind of fun. Kind of get that offbeat swing. We'll try it with maybe the pad. Same preset, straight off the rip, really nice. Again, we could mess around with that speed. Super lovely, right? We've got ones for vocals as well. This is our vocal beforehand.
Oh, nah, nah, yeah. Do you feel what I'm feeling?
And we could pop it on.
Oh, nah, nah, yeah. Do you feel what I'm feeling?
So you can immediately hear the delay, a little bit of reverb, adding a little bit of brightness there, a little bit of shimmer, and then some chorus as well. If we want to make that vocal sound really, really close, we can do maybe the player 2 preset.
Oh, nah, nah, yeah. Do you feel what I'm feeling?
It's much more dry, right? There's even a couple of Easter eggs, if you can find them, that does some really crazy stuff as well. There we have it, guys. I'd really like to start a conversation about this. What do you think about Kyle Beats and YouTubers like him that are creating their own audio effects racks that seemingly do nothing? Do let me know what you'd like to see in future videos as well. Do you want me to recreate some more racks? Would you like me to show you how to make music around a particular genre or artist? I would absolutely love to know. As always, the link to anything I've mentioned in this video or previous is in the description below. If you do want to help out the channel, do make sure that you like and subscribe. It's just to...
No, God! No, God, please, no!
I'll see you guys next time.